Rey stood at the edge of the ruins of the old Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Her lightsaber ignited in quiet reflection. The galaxy had changed since the fall of the First Order, yet the Force whispered of new disturbances. She was no longer just Rey Skywalker. She was a teacher now, carrying the weight of rebuilding what had once been lost. The balance she once sought now demanded more than belief. It required legacy. Years had passed since the war, and scattered Force-sensitive individuals began surfacing across different systems. Rey traveled from planet to planet, searching for those who felt the Force call them. Some were children, some were warriors scarred by battle, and others, like her, were simply lost. Each journey reminded her that rebuilding the Jedi Order wasn't about numbers. It was about faith. On the desert world of Jakku, a faint echo of her past drew her back. There she met a young scavenger girl named Tira, whose instincts mirrored Rey's own beginnings. Tira was defiant, raw with power, and afraid of her strength. Rey saw herself in the child and promised to guide her, a promise that reignited her purpose. While Rey trained her new apprentices, distant worlds began reporting strange disturbances in the Force. Planets felt tremors, as if ancient energies were stirring. Jedi archives recovered from Octu revealed fragments of an old prophecy, one that spoke of a shadow beyond the light, a force that once challenged even the Old Republic. The whispers grew louder, haunting Rey's meditations. Finn, now a leader in the new Galactic coalition, reached out to Rey with urgent news. A hidden cult calling themselves the Eternal Hand had begun unearthing Sith relics, believing they could harness the Force without allegiance to either side. Their leader, a mysterious figure named Varis Kael, claimed to hear the voice of an ancient Sith spirit. Rey knew this was no coincidence. Rey and her small group of Jedi traveled to the Outer Rim, where rumors of the Eternal Hand's activity spread. The group's journey took them to the volcanic world of Moraband, the ancient Sith homeworld. What they found was unsettling. Dark energy pulsing from the planet's core, resonating like a heartbeat. Rey could feel something familiar in its pull, something that remembered her. As the Jedi investigated, Varis Kael revealed himself. Once a scholar of the Jedi archives, he had turned to darkness out of disillusionment. He believed the Force itself was broken, that both Jedi and Sith misunderstood it. His goal wasn't domination, but evolution. Rey saw truth twisted into arrogance, and it terrified her. Back on Coruscant, Rey's apprentices began to experience shared visions. They saw twin stars colliding, and a figure cloaked in red flame emerging from the light. The visions spread like a ripple, touching even non-Force users. Rey recognized it as the same Force anomaly she felt years ago, a convergence that threatened all life. Rey sought counsel from the Force ghosts of the past. Luke appeared beside her in the temple ruins, his voice calm but sorrowful. He reminded her that rebuilding wasn't just about restoring the Jedi. It was about redefining what they stood for. A new order must rise, he told her. Not bound by the old mistakes. Rey took his words to heart. Meanwhile, Varis Kael's cult expanded, spreading dark teachings disguised as enlightenment. Worlds began dividing once again, some following Rey's vision of balance, others embracing Kael's promise of freedom through chaos. It became more than a war of weapons. It was a war of belief. Rey knew she had to stop him before his influence fractured the fragile peace. Rey led her apprentices on a daring mission to the planet Exegol, where Kael planned to merge his consciousness with the Force itself. The stormy skies raged with unnatural energy, and lightning tore through the ruins. The battle that followed was fierce, lightsabers clashing amid ancient monoliths as the dark side screamed through the air. Tira, Rey's first apprentice, confronted Kael directly. She saw his doubt, the human beneath the shadow. But Kael's ambition consumed him, and in one final strike, he unleashed a blast of energy that threw the entire temple into chaos. Rey shielded her students, her lightsaber glowing brighter than ever as she absorbed the storm through the Force. In that moment, Rey's connection to the Force transcended her physical form. She saw generations of Jedi from Yoda to Anakin guiding her. She realized that the Force was not divided into light and dark but existed as one continuous stream. Her understanding shattered the illusion Kael had built, and the energy collapsed inward, ending his reign. As silence fell, the new Jedi stood among the ruins, shaken but alive. Tira wept, not in defeat, but in awakening. Rey smiled softly, knowing the true victory was not in destroying evil, but in teaching others how to rise above it. The galaxy, though scarred, began to heal once more. Months later, Rey rebuilt the Jedi Temple, not of marble or stone, but of energy and light, using the Force to weave it into being. It stood as a symbol of unity between all who sought truth, regardless of their origins. The first generation of her Jedi Order began their training beneath twin suns, their lightsabers gleaming with hope. Finn and Poe visited, standing beside Rey as the galaxy's new guardians gathered. They laughed, reminisced, and dreamed of a future where the Jedi were not myths but mentors. Rey looked to the horizon, feeling peace at last, knowing the Force had chosen this path for her. One she had built, not inherited. But in the far reaches of space, a faint echo stirred, a spark left behind from Kael's fall. A hidden remnant of the eternal hand whispered to the void, seeking new power. The balance Rey created was strong, but the Force was ever-changing. The story of the Jedi was not ending, it was beginning anew. Rey watched the stars one final time before her next journey. She felt the call again, not of conflict, but of destiny. As she ignited her golden lightsaber, the hum resonated like a heartbeat across the galaxy. The new Jedi Order had risen, not as saviors or soldiers, but as seekers of truth. The Force was alive once more, and as dawn broke over the rebuilt temple, Rey smiled, not as the last Jedi, but as the first of many. Far beyond the outer rim, explorers discovered an ancient temple submerged beneath the icy surface of a forgotten moon. The carvings on its walls spoke of a civilization that once lived in harmony with the Force, predating both Jedi and Sith. Rey felt compelled to visit it, sensing that the origins of the Force itself might be hidden within. When Rey reached the moon, she was overwhelmed by visions, beings of pure energy who communicated through emotion, not words. They showed her how the Force once flowed freely among all living things, before the age of separation and control. Rey understood then that her mission was larger than rebuilding. It was to restore the Force's natural balance to the galaxy. As she returned to her students, she spoke of what she had seen, teaching them that mastery of the Force meant unity, not dominance. Together, they vowed to become not just Jedi, but guardians of harmony. And under the twin suns, as light spread across the temple's shining walls, the new generation of Jedi lifted their sabers, a promise that hope would forever endure.